plot twist! As it turns out, currently laying in bed at this hotel in Munich, and this is the point where supposed to start telling you about the flight back home to the US. However, the numbers for tomorrow not looking so good. We ended up deciding to go with option 2, which means we have an extra day and it's going to be spent here in Germany.
I'm Gary, and this is Coasting with Culture, which is all about combining theme park visits and riding roller coasters with various cultural experiences around the world. After spending the previous few days in Austria to visit several of their amusement parks and ride as many of their coasters as we could, Erica and I have found ourselves with a bit of a delay getting back home due to flight loads. So why not take this opportunity to visit a few German theme parks that neither of us had been to? That's exactly what we do with a trio of stops that give us a chance to try out a variety of coasters, see a bunch of Lego models, and some rather unusual incidents, all before heading home the next day. So, remember in the first vlog of this trip when I said you can't always get the flight you're hoping to? Well, that's pretty much what happened to Eric and I for our return home. True, the number of seats left wasn't 0. We realized there's a very good chance we might end up going to the airport and spending a big chunk of time there just to find out we weren't making the flight. So rather than risk having to deal with that and the possibility of being on a very crowded flight, we decided to hold off until the following morning and add another day to our car rental and hotel stay. So since we had an extra day to enjoy, we took a look at what parks we could get to and decided for a nice haul of coasters, heading first to the Legoland Deutschland resort, where we could stop by Peppa Pig Park and then the main Legoland Park, then drive on up north to visit Skyline Park. We may have taken a little field trip on the way back to the hotel as well, but we'll get to that later. Like its Florida counterpart, the German Peppa Pig Park is part of the larger Legoland resort, and was only about 2 months old as we came for our visit. Admittedly, Eric and I are probably not part of their primary demographic, as this was certainly more for families with smaller children, but had some really cute theming, and even offered covered seating near the stage where shows could be held, while also being utilized as a meet and greet spot with Peppa herself. They even add some character to the stage area with miniature hills for the kids to play on. Of course, there was a reason we stopped by the park, and that was a lap on Papa Woot's Octobahn, or Daddy Pig's roller coaster as it's known in Florida, as this is the same model of family coaster from Zamperla, which is one of the first from the Italian firm to offer a launch. Certainly not the solid boost like you would get in Velocicoaster's second launch, but a nice way to introduce youngsters to the launched coaster experience. While we got the ride we were here for, we figured that since we paid admission, we might as well enjoy another ride, which would be their cute dinosaur ride in the back of the park. The families could certainly spend more time than we did, as we were in and out within an hour, but we had 2 larger parks in our plans, including the main attraction of the resort, Legoland. We got right to it with the next coaster of the day, catching a ride on Das große Lego-Rennen, or the Great Lego Race, which is the same large park mock Wild Mouse that is a staple of several Legoland parks, with a large drop followed by hairpin turns and straightaways that are more akin to the typical Wild Mouse layout. A fun ride that's a nice change from that standard course. Another common Legoland attraction featured here was Ninjago. And like the last time Eric and I found ourselves in a Legoland, we had a bit of fun with the play features, and I found myself once again not quite figuring out how to aim.
Now I've done about 3 different variations of this ride, and I can never figure it out. Pretty convinced that this is my least favorite of the interactive dart rides because it just doesn't seem very intuitive. For some reason, the aim just doesn't go the way it's supposed to based off of what they show on the instructions, and I don't know. I never really cared for Ninjago. I don't know if I ever will figure it out. So maybe I'm just really bad at it.
That being said, they did have a fun ride next door, which was a more modern take on those older squirrel cage rides, where the cabins rotate forward and backward at the command of the riders inside. This would be my first time trying out a flume ride at a Legoland, as we rode the Jungle Expedition, offering a fun adventure through jungles with dinosaurs all over, and a large drop for the finale that gave a nice splash, although not nearly as wet as some of the other flumes that we found in Austria. One ride that really stands out at this Legoland is Maximus, a smaller version wing coaster from Bolliger and Mabillard that offers a bigger thrill for the kids thanks to its 2 inversions. It's interesting to see what the Swiss firm created to appeal to a wider audience, as they've typically been known for their larger coasters, but their ability to make smaller coasters like this could certainly make some fun additions to other parks in the future. This ride's no Thunderbird or Gatekeeper, but like its larger cousins, it has some fun close encounters with the ground and scenery, including the large Lego dragon. Speaking of dragons, like every other Legoland I've been to so far, they have a medieval themed area with 2 dragon themed coasters, one big and one small. The smaller one can vary quite a bit between the different parks, as here, Drachenjagd is a junior coaster from Gerstlauer, which really emphasizes the turns and small banked drops, almost like a more modern junior mine train. The bigger dragon-themed coaster, Fjord Drake, is like most every other dragon coaster, as it begins with that signature dark ride section through the castle to the larger coaster portion. This version is the same larger as the Air Force 5 model, featured at the Malaysia location. Personally, I find this version to have the best coaster portion because of its larger size and higher speed. Having successfully ridden all the coasters of the park, Eric and I decided to enjoy a few more attractions before it was time to head out. So we checked out the factory tour, which wasn't the same as the fun dark ride in New York. Rather, it was more like a formal factory tour, where you can see the process of the melted plastic being injected into the mold to create the pieces. Unlike the New York ride though, you're given a special souvenir piece produced by their in-house machine. And if that isn't enough, they have a whole store with far more Lego to buy. Next door was the Power Builder, a Kuka arm attraction that has you in seats at the end of a robotic arm and can flip and spin you in all sorts of directions. While the length of the ride doesn't change, you have the ability to choose how intense it will be on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest. Naturally, Eric and I went full power and had a fun time being flipped and heaved just about every which way. It can be a bit disorienting though, so perhaps not the best choice for those who get motion sickness. Before departing, there was one last area I wanted to check out, and that was the Miniland area, a signature Legoland experience where master builders create replicas of world-famous cities and landmarks. Each location tends to have a great emphasis on its local region, and being in Germany meant getting to see several of their cities, including the skyscrapers of Frankfurt, the capital of Berlin, complete with the Red Town Hall and Cathedral, and the ports and waterways of Hamburg that also has a miniature version of its famous funfair, Hamburg Dom. They also highlight some Bavarian landmarks, such as the incredibly scenic Neuschwanstein Castle and its location on the foothills of the Alps, as well as Allianz Arena, which is the home pitch of the popular soccer team Bayern Munich. There's also tributes to their neighboring countries, whether it's the canals of Venice in Italy, the windmills of the Netherlands, and the medieval bridge of Lucerne in Switzerland. One of their other fun displays highlights some of the most famous skyscrapers in the world, from One World Trade Center in New York to Dubai's Burj Khalifa. They even highlight the region's agriculture as well. I'll always enjoy seeing how these mini-lands vary from one Legoland to another, as I love the way they showcase their respective home locations and places nearby. For now though, we had to hit the road so we could make one more stop, and that was about an hour away in Skyline Park. What began as more of a leisure park would see the addition of rides in the 1990s and turn into more of a traditional amusement park after the acquisition by a traveling showman. You could still see the origin of this place as a leisure park because there are several areas that felt more like a city park with its ponds, small gardens, and play structures. Some parts of the park seemed fairly empty because of open spaces not filled in. In many respects, that sort of mixed bag experience would be an ongoing theme of our visit as we got into the rides. The first of which was a unique suspended coaster from CariPro called Skyrider, where passengers all face inward as you glide down a single rail track with some light spinning. Nothing too crazy, but enough to be noticeable. Certainly one of the most leisurely coasters out there. We then rode an SBF Visa Junior coaster called Flutter Otter, which was the same layout as Wiki from our first stop of the trip. Definitely not a barnstormer of a ride, but a coaster to add to the list nonetheless. The biggest coaster of the park is their Bauer Skyloop called Skywheel. This is the third coaster of the model I've had a chance to ride, and while the last one I rode in Arkansas left a lot to be desired for smoothness, this one wasn't so bad. Dare I say I actually quite enjoyed it, especially for the nutty hang time you get as you roll through the inline twist up top. Further toward the back of the park, we found Kids Spin, an SBF Visa spinner that was a larger 3-loop variant, which again made for a fun ride. The spinning would continue with the raft ride called Sky Rafting. Having enjoyed our raft ride experience in Vienna, we thought sky rafting could be a comparable experience, although it does have more water features that can get you wet, including one that might have irked me a bit.
They do have an interactive water feature that is on that platform where there's a wheel that you spin and it makes 2 water bombs go off. And those little fucks right there continuously spun it over and over again, so some of us got absolutely fucking drenched. There was one guy who actually came and splashed him with a bottle of water, and the dad got pissed at him for it. It's like, well, shit, deserved it.
Something else that was a bit unexpected was seeing one of the rafts come to a complete stop right before the end, which wasn't a complete surprise as it didn't quite have the speed or flow of Wild Alpenbahn from Wiener Prater. Going further into the park, the vast empty spaces between rides became even more noticeable.
So I think Erica just came up with the best way to explain this place that I hadn't really figured out until she said something.
It's Marineland up in Canada. This is Canada's Marineland. Very big, very huge. Everything's really spaced out. Got a big outside circle. The stuff's on the inside. Definitely has more rides. No huge hill, unfortunately, with the view of the falls. But
yeah, it definitely feels like a similar kind of layout as Marineland.
Definitely
Less whales, less belugas.
less geese.
Less geese, that too. But yeah, it definitely has a lot of like big gaps like you would see there.
There's definitely room for potential here. They just celebrated an anniversary this year, like this is like what, 25th birthday or something like that. So like you can tell this park is going to expand. We actually see construction zones all over the park.
Eventually, we did get to the back where we found the largest transportable log flume in the world, Wildwasserbahn, which has become a permanent fixture of the park since 2017. Like almost every other log flume on this trip, it has a backward section and reaches a maximum height of 98 feet, with an interesting layout of multiple drops that are staggered, as opposed to having just one single large drop. And like sky rafting, there were some figures to add to the wetness. A model of ride I hadn't experienced yet was the Spike Coaster from Mauer, and here they had Sky Dragster to become that first experience. While Mauer does call the model a coaster, this is far more of a controlled experience as you turn a handle that powers the car through the course with a cock that engages the teeth on the side of the track. It's more like an even more controlled power coaster, so I wouldn't personally count it, but it's still a fun ride. And it did make for one of the more dramatic moments of the day, as apparently there was some sort of argument involving guests, where one of them snuck into the maintenance area and grabbed a hammer to attack somebody else with it. While I've heard some crazy things happening in amusement parks, this might have been the first time I was in a park as such a thing happened. We had one last coaster to ride, and that was Sky Spin, which like several other rides in the park, came from Mauer. And being the larger version of their spinning coaster line, it was certainly a fun way to end our coaster hunt for this adventure, even if it didn't quite spin as well as others of this model. Our last experience in the park was their fairly large dark ride, Geisterbahn, which was of that wonderfully cheesy variety of dark ride. Skyline was certainly a very interesting park with some rather odd moments, and while I don't envision anyone having it on the top of their list of favorite parks, there was certainly something kind of charming about the place, and I certainly wouldn't skip out on it. As we drove back to Munich, we took a bit of a detour as we were curious to know if we could find the home of the company that designed several of the rides we just experienced, since Mauer's offices were located in Munich. And tucked away in a smaller industrial complex, we found that home office and manufacturing site, which had one of the models of their Spike coaster car on display by the entrance. A fun little nerdy side quest before heading home the next morning. While this was yet another short bit of time in Germany, I certainly appreciate we could have an extra day to enjoy before we went back to the States. And since I don't know exactly when I'll be back, I decided to grab a mezzo mix before we get to our gate. The chance of getting Delta 1 heading home didn't quite look as good as it did coming over. But we lucked out and were assigned window seats in the front of the cabin just like last time. And so we'd have a nice comfortable ride to Detroit on that 767. Even though I didn't really sleep on this flight much, I really appreciated having that more comfortable experience, as well as the better quality of food and beverages offered, as their grilled chicken breast and mashed potatoes with gravy was certainly among the better meals I've had on a flight, and an ice cream sundae for dessert was a nice touch at the end. The rest of the flight was spent transferring photos and video of the trip and writing some vlog scripts, with a side of a classic James Bond film when I needed a break. Before landing, we received one more meal which included a small pizza that was okay, although the crust was pretty dry. But I did enjoy the cookie that was given as a final treat, especially as the next flight was likely going to be an economy. There was some uncertainty with getting home, more so for Erica, as the one she was hoping for ended up being quite full.
And while she's waiting to find out if she's going to make that flight, I discovered that there was a 410 that I could possibly get on to get home, especially since it's been delayed by about 13 minutes. So I'm going to try and see if I can make this one. It'll be a situation where I'm the last one on if it works, but let's go find out.
And as I rushed nearly halfway down the concourse to see if I could make it,
It didn't happen, so looks like I had to wait a couple hours, but that'll be all right.
as I had that extra time, I decided to see if this vending machine pizza was any better than the one served on that previous flight, which I admittedly didn't have any high expectations for, but the curiosity of trying one was too strong to ignore, and it turned out to be pretty decent. Eventually, the time came for that flight back home to Seattle, so I made my way there, and in a far less drastic fashion than when I tried to get to Detroit a week earlier, I was assigned a seat.
And I'm officially on my way home.
Sitting on the aisle for this one didn't bother me, especially as the row's window seat might have been a bit more claustrophobic. And after a rather uneventful flight, we landed back in SeaTac, and I made my way to the light rail for that ride back into downtown, which allowed me to be welcomed home by a familiar sight. This journey began with a bit of mystery regarding the destination, and that was certainly a fun way to go about it. I think at some point in the future I'd like to do this again, but instead of having a primary destination in mind, I'll put more trust in the standby gods to decide where I fly. But now I can give Austria that proper checkmark, having spent several days there, which offered the natural beauty of the Alps, fascinating history and wonderful experiences while exploring Vienna, and of course, tons of delicious food, beer, and treats. The amusement parks were also a highlight of this adventure, between getting to enjoy the classic rides of Böhmischer Prater, the many dark rides and coasters of Wiener Prater, fun-themed rides at Family Park, and experiencing Wild Train before its retirement. And it was such a cool experience getting that behind-the-scenes tour from Johannes and Mueller. Having the bonus day in Germany was also a nice side effect of the original travel plans falling through, as I enjoyed the contrasting experiences of the Legoland resort parks with Skyline Park. Whether it was getting to enjoy the vast collection of models replicating several of the country's landmarks, or some of the quiet and scenic parts of a former leisure park, which also had some fascinating quirks. I'll also say that this trip wouldn't have been the experience it was without the company and shared theme park enthusiasm that Erica provided. And I'm grateful to have a friend who enjoys them so much to be willing to add some extra time on the road for more obscurely located parks that provided some great experiences. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up heading to another far-off place for more of these experiences in the future. As we wrap up this look back, I'd like to say thank you for watching this adventure to Austria and Germany. I hope you enjoyed it and that you'll return for more adventures to be shared here on Coasting with Culture. Thank you for watching this video from Coasting with Culture. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and click on the subscribe button to see future videos here on YouTube, like these ones which you may enjoy as well. Additional content can be found at coastingwithculture.com, and you can also follow Coasting with Culture on various social media channels at CoastWCulture for announcements, previews, and updates. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care and safe travels.